Okay, on Friday, we had a look at solutions when we were just looking at the x-intercepts themselves, and we shaded. So let me review that quickly then. So I had 0 less than or equal to 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to find out the area of the region that we had to shade. And we do that using the x-intercepts. So to do that, I simply factor first. Okay, so my x-intercepts then are, well, first thing I did was change the equals, equals, and then I found it. So x is equal to 1/2 and -3. So then what I did is I took my number line. So I have -3 right here, 0, 1/2, 1, -4. And I substitute into my original equation to find out whether or not that's the area that I need to shade or which is a part of the answer. So I put -4 in here. So -4 squared is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 plus -20 is 12. 12 subtract 3 is 9. 9 greater than 0? Answer is yes. Okay. So it's going to do this, and actually I would make it a solid line because it's equal to. Right, I put 0 in here, 0, 0, -3 is -3 greater than 0. Nope. Then I put a 1 in there. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 subtract 3 is 4. 4 is greater than 0. So those are the areas that I shade. Okay? So that was just to find the intercepts and shade that region. Today we take it one step further. Now instead of 0 is less than or equal to, we go y is less than or equal to 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. Okay? So they don't have the equals to, so I'm just going to take it off of there for a second. Okay, so we want to write the related quadratic function in the standard form. So we put an equals into there. So let's put an equals in here. And let's answer a few questions. First thing I want to do is find out what my y-intercept is. What is my y-intercept? -3. Okay. And I just solved for my x-intercepts. What were they? 1/2 and -3. Perfect. Okay. So, sorry? Thank you. Alright, so I need to graph this. So I'm going to go to 1/2, which is right here. Put an open dot there. And then I go to 1, 2, -3 is an open dot right there. Again, the open dots are because I don't have an equals to here. Another point is 0, -3. It's got to go through there. Okay. That'd be one of my intercepts. Now, I know that the vertex is halfway in between there. Now again, you have technology to do this. You have the technology to do this, but I know that it's halfway in between there. So I believe it was, what did we figure it out to? -2¼ or no, negative halfway between there would be 2.75. I can't remember. It's 1 point something and 6.25. So it's down here. That's my vertex. Okay, you can use your calculator to do it. It's the easiest way and quickest way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this. That. And like that.
Why is it dotted? Because it's not equal to?
That's right. Okay. And now we need to determine which of the regions that we shade on. Okay. So it is you can do one of two things. You actually can still, if you want to, do what you did before, and put 0 and 0 in there. That's a possibility, okay? Just to check it, but we've already done all of our work, and our region that we shade is out there, around the outside, okay? All right, so far? So, exactly what we did on Friday. Only difference is now we actually draw the parabola. We don't just draw the number line. Draw the parabola and we shape the region. Any questions about that so far? Okay.
So open dot means like when it's not equal to, and full dot is when it's equal to.
All right, let's look at the example 2 then. Y is less than or equal to all right. Okay. All right, so what's the first thing that we do? Okay. Change the equals, yeah. First step. Change the equals. Y equals negative x squared minus 6x plus 9. Okay. So, first things first, y-intercept is what? Y-intercept is plus 9. We're going to let it equal 0. I'm going to divide by negative 1. Okay, and then I'm going to hope to factor. Can I factor this?
No, you could factor it the other way though. You didn't
Yeah, you factor it the other way.
do
just
negative
opposite.
x minus 3 and negative x and then x minus 3.
No, you can't factor it anyway.
Right.
Not factorable. Okay?
So then you put it into your equation or completing the square. So you would get x plus 3 squared.
Okay, well alright, I like what you're doing with this. Let's go with, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to complete the square for this. So that'll give us our vertex at the very least. So let's go, 0 equals x squared plus 6x plus a blank, subtract 9, subtract the blank. What goes in the blank? 3 squared,
And
9 out there, so I'm going to end up with 0 equals x plus 3 squared minus 18. Okay, so that gives us our vertex. What's our vertex in this case? Very good. Negative 3, negative 18. So that's a little quicker work. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something here. Remember, when I'm drawing out a parabola, I just need, if I have the vertex, I only need 2 other key points. And those 2 key points you want them on the same y value. Alright, so it doesn't necessarily have to be your intercepts, it helps, but it doesn't have to be, because if you watch what happens here. Okay, so my vertex is negative 3 and negative 18, which would be somewhere down here, right? Agreed? Okay, and 0 and 9?
No,
Right.
there's no square root of 18. So it'd be-
No, I know, but we've already identified my
Okay.
y-intercept as 0 and 9, right? That's 3 this way. So 3 going this way is also going to be 9. So that would be negative 6, negative 9. I have 2 coordinates now. Alright? I have 3 coordinates now. I can draw it. So it's equals to. So without knowing what my intercepts are for x, there's my graph. Like that. Okay? Now I would put a test point in from inside of here into there and see if it works. So let's use this coordinate right here, which would be -3 and 0. So let's put it in there. So I have, I'm just going to do it right here, 0 is less than or equal to -3 squared minus 6 times -3 add 9. Okay. -3 squared is 9, that's -9. That's going to give me plus 18. -9 add 9, 0, right? 0 and 18 make 18. Is 18 greater than 0? Yeah? There's the shaded region. So this was done slightly different because I didn't use my intercepts. But as long as I have the vertex and one other coordinate, I can draw my parabola through those three. And I'm done.
Do we need to know this method?
What other method are you going to use to graph this?
Well, no, like, do I need to, like, be able to, can I use the roots?
Sure. Well, what are you going to do if you, in this case here, your roots are going to be, you look at your roots here, add 18 equals x plus 3 squared, right? Square root, that's going to give me 3 root 2 equals, whoops, mess of this, it's going to give me plus minus 3 root 2 equals x add 3. So your roots are going to be,
Can't you, instead of turning it into a radical, can't you just go square root 3
You're not
plus
using-
minus square root of 18?
you're going to have to do, there's your roots. Okay? So you could use approximations to get it, which is what your calculator is going to give you anyways using Desmos. But if you go to this route, I want to see the square roots. I don't want to see decimals. You use your calculator, you use decimals. So that would be like right here, right here. Okay? So if you can factor it, then I would use my roots. But if I can't, then so be it. Okay, let's have a look at the last question here. It now wants you to write an inequality. So here's how I'm going to write my inequality. I'm just going to leave the sign out for a second. H and K, well, they're using P and Q in your book. You can use whichever. Alright, so this is what I have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify what my vertex is on that graph. I'm going to leave it as an equals to start with as well, like this. Okay, so what's my vertex from that graph?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. So that means I have y equals a x minus 3 squared plus 2. Okay? So what's the next value that I have to find?
Your A value.
My a, and how do I find my a value?
Do the coordinate on the graph.
Right. Very good. Let's look at the graph. I've got 2 values given to me. I got 3 values given to me actually, but I'll use 1 and 0. So 0 equals a, 1 minus 3 squared, add 2. Subtract 2. Get that. A equals -1/2. So now I'm going to rewrite this now. Whoops. Now I'm going to take this out. And I'm going to go -1/2 x minus 3 squared add 2. Okay, so I've got all the information I need right now except for one thing. What is it? The inequality, that's right. So to get the inequality, I'm going to substitute a coordinate in there and then write it in after I've simplified both sides. So I've already used 1 and 0, so this time let's use 5 and 0. Okay? So I'm going to put 0 in here. There's the right side. Now I've got minus 1/2, 5 subtract 3 squared, add 2. 5 subtract 3 squared is? Squared, which is? 4. 4 times negative 1/2 is? Negative 2. Negative 2 add 2 is?
0.
So which way does the sign go?
0 is greater than or equal to negative 2.
No, because it's a 0 on this side. So what's the problem here?
Is equal to which one?
I don't want to use a value that's actually on the graph itself, on the lines of the graph. Okay? So there's our first thing. So I don't want to use a value that's already on there. So now, what am I going to use? Well, I'm going to take one out of the shaded region.
6 and 0.
So 6 and 0, that works. So let's do that. 0,
Or we can use 0.
can we use 0 and 0?
Yeah.
Let's use it. Now I have this.
Just go ahead and positive
3 squared is
2. Negative 4. I mean,
9.
9.
9 times negative 1/2 is?
Negative 4.5.
Negative 4.5 add 2 is?
2. Negative 2.5.
So what direction does it go, and is it equal to? Which direction should it go?
0 is greater than or equal to 2. Negative 2.5.
0 is greater than? Now look at your graph. Is it equal to?
Yes.
Yeah, it's solid. There you go. Okay. So the process. First thing I do, write out your vertex form. Now you also know how to do root form too. So if they give you the 2 roots, we could have done it that way as well. But these we've already done. We've gone through this till we're blue in the face on how to solve quadratics, find equations. So the last part I do is it's just simply this: y is greater than or equal to negative 1/2 x minus 3 squared add 2. That's the equation of that graph. And you're done. All right. So looking back at Friday, I used my roots. I used the number line to find out what the solution was for it. Check, x check. That means then all my values are less than negative 3 or equal to it, or greater than or equal to 1, or sorry, 1/2. Then all we do is do the exact same thing, except now we're going to actually draw out our parabola. Again, you do have decimals to guide you with that. All right? This is a lot of algebra work. To get you there, you have decimals, and eventually we want to work at finding the equation from the given graph. So on page 397 and 398, they give you graphs, and they ask you to find the equation of those graphs, the inequality. Okay? And we are done with 9. So work on 9.3 today. You'll review tomorrow. Wednesday's a half day. Thursday you'll write a test on this. And then Friday and all next week you'll study for your exam.
Do you know what the other times are?
No. You guys keep asking. If it's not posted, we don't know. So you'll know when we find out.
You
We
don't
have
think it'll
to-
be like the week after grad?
I would highly doubt it, but I can't tell you for sure.
Like, really suck.
Yes, Brendan.
Can I, I know for bio, she said during exam week, the first 2 days of school, do we have to come or can we study at home?
I can't answer that. Because I don't really know. The English key, sorry. Okay, so let me shut the camera off. Alright, you got the rest of today to finish off 9.3 then.